So for our last TED-style presentation before lunch, yes, there will be food, we have Kathleen Macias Torres, the Executive Director from Spark, introducing our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thanks so much for having me here today. It's so nice to see everyone in person, finally. My name is Kathleen Macias Torres, and I am the Executive Director of Spark. Spark has been around now for 36 years, serving the Westchester community. We service individuals with developmental disabilities from all ages, children, young adults, and adults. But today I'm here to present Donald Stevens. I'm so lucky to be doing this. Donald Stevens, AKA the Hope Ambassador, is an Emmy Award winner, life coach, community leader, and advocate in the city of White Plains. He is also the CEO and co-founder of A Better Wash, a mobile waterless auto detailing spa. Stephen has coached and mentored hundreds of young adults who have gone on to establish businesses and ministries of their own. Stevens has also worked as a music therapist and has been serving the special needs community now for 10 years. His work as a therapist has taught him how to find talent and purpose in different individuals and teach them how to express themselves through song and music. And I'm lucky that Stevens has joined Spark in providing services for them, so I'm very happy for that. His unique approach to coaching and teaching has found him in large platforms such as Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Garden, and Gotham Hall. We are so lucky to have him here in Westchester County. After almost dying from COVID in his parents' home, Stephen used that moment to step out and plant seeds of hope in others who have lost their way. Donald's purpose as a Hope Ambassador is uplift and encourage people to be the change in their family, community, ministry, and job. His electrifying approach will never go unnoticed by those around him. Stephen believes that you are the solution to the problem. Please welcome Donald Stevens.
Hello, 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 hello.
It's on right now. It's on. Yep.
Hello. How's everyone doing? Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Kathleen, again for that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to be here. As she said, my name is Donald Stevens, born and raised in White Plains, AKA the Hope Ambassador. Yeah, White Plains. Yes, yes. So today I want to talk about a subject called changing the world from the inside out. Now, I actually have a friend. Her name is Hope. Everyone say hi to Hope. Hi, Hope. Hi, Hope. And just like Hope, we all are strings of this community. Now, did you know if you place a guitar in a certain environment that it's actually going to untune itself? Even to the point that if you played it, the string is going to break. Now, I actually had that happen to me playing in the subway. I was fortunate enough to be on a show called Date While You Wait. Now, it's not a dating show. It's actually a social experiment that involved a host named Thomas Knox. And he would sit down and he would play Connect Four and invite people who were waiting on the subway to play Connect Four with him. And so I was contacted by the executive director, David Katz and Katz Entertainment, to be a part of the show. They wanted me to talk about my experience as a music therapist and a musician and a community advocate. And while I was there on the show, lo and behold, the environment down in the subway, we all know the subways, right? Not that great. So what happened was that my guitar started to untune itself, and right before we were gonna film, my string broke. And the executive producer came to me and said, Donald, are you gonna be able to play? I said, you know what? I got it. It's fine, we're gonna do it. About a minute later, I played a 30-second hook of a song about a conversation that I had with the host. A month later, I created a 3-minute and 18-second song called You Can Change the World, and a year later, we were awarded an Emmy Award. Now, this all took place during the pandemic. Even around that time, as Kathleen mentioned, that I almost died in my parents' home. Had the ambulance rush to my parents' home. I was away from my children for about 18 days. And it was at that moment I said, you know what? What could I have done better to serve this community? And because I do so much, I wanted to go back out and just, go for it and start working and start impacting the community. And then I heard a still voice that said, be still and know that I am God. I got you. And so at that moment, there was this peace that came over me. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. And that's when opportunities began to happen. I was fortunate enough to mentor over 100 young people in business and ministries, was able to go on radio shows and talk about my experience. But there were some things that had to change within me as a minister, as a community advocate, as we're changing the world and shaping the world. This is the world that we also have to change as well. And now change can be the hardest thing to do, am I right? It can be the hardest thing to do. And we're out and we're serving our communities now. There are doctors, there's lawyers, there are executives, there's CEOs in here, but we all have one thing in common, that we're all servants. And we all have a servant's heart. Now, do you know that the only person that loves change is a wet baby? Right? Who here has children? Right? They're probably all grown now. I actually have a 2-year-old, right? And so he's in his potty training stages, and if he'll do his thing in his Pampers, and he looks at mommy and daddy like, all right, you're gonna change me? He can't change himself. And so that's just like our community. Our communities are looking for change. They're looking for something different, and they just don't know how to do it. And now, just like hope here, we're all strings that can bring harmony to the community. And even if one string is untuned, it won't sound right. And so today I'm going to talk about changing the world from the inside out. Now, I mentioned that I had COVID and almost died, and literally it completely changed the way I viewed myself. It changed the way that I viewed the community, because I wouldn't have known what would happen to my family, and those are traumatic situations that sometimes when you look back on it, you're like, wow, I thank God that I'm still here. And it's because I have a purpose. And I'm going to say that for you. You're here because you have a purpose. It's by no coincidence that you're here. There's a reason why you're here. And so we're going to talk about changing from the inside out. So our communities are longing for change. And we have to change the way we think and the way we view our communities. Now, for me, about 2 years ago, while all the social injustice, which is still now happening with all the riots and all the marches that were happening, there was a lot of thoughts that were going in my mind. As a black man in Westchester, as someone who is educated, actually being the only youngest African American to graduate NYU at the top of his class. And thank you. And even in that moment, I still didn't believe in myself. I still had doubts about who I am and who I was called to be. And as we're here with our organizations are a part of who we are. A lot of our organizations have been started by a testimony, a story. A lot of our organizations are built to last. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing, especially for Westchester. And so, as we continue to look inwardly, focusing on who we are, daily affirmations are so important. All right, we say, well, I talk to myself all the time, but what are you saying to yourself? What are those daily affirmations? Sometimes we have to change the way that we think. And I caught myself saying, you know, this world is a mess. And it's so easy for us to say it because of what we're looking at. But instead of saying this world is a mess or what's wrong with the world, you say, you know what? I am right for this world. Can we say that? I am right for this world. I am right for this world. And so we have to begin to change the way that we are thinking. Now, for the past 13 years, I've been working with children and adults with special needs. And there was one particular child that I work with. Actually, his father works for Volunteer for New York or America, I believe it, Matthew Welling. And I started working with him at the age of 6. He's 16 now. He's like an amazing human being. But he was born blind. He was in Sloan Kettering for about 18 months, and his skull was crushing his optic nerve. And so I got this opportunity to create songs with Matthew, got the opportunity to travel with Matthew. As you heard before, we performed at Madison Square Garden. We performed at Radio City Music Center, and actually we're gearing up to do the same thing out in April. And he was a child that had a lot of fears. And so my job, I had to take the focus off myself and put it on him because he had so much potential. There was so much gift that he had, so much talent that he had, that I had to put my all into this one child. There was a time where we went on stage and he got stage fright. He ran off the stage. He was crying. And I said, listen, Matthew, man, there's so much greatness inside of you, man. There's people waiting for you. And did you know, man, he ran up on that stage and started singing Bob Marley, one love, one heart, let's get together and feel all right. And I said, you go ahead, Matthew. And that's the same with us, that there's so much potential in our communities. So instead of saying, well, man, this community's messed up, no, this community has potential, changing the way that we think. And so as we continue on, it's easy to see everything messed up in the community. A lot of us have grown up in communities. A lot of us have grown up in different areas. And again, just like the guitar, if you're in a certain environment, it will untune itself. And there's some environments that we've been put on and put in that we've been getting untuned, that our purpose have been getting untuned because we weren't in the right environment. We're in the proper environment. But I want to say now, right here, right now is the proper environment for harmony to take place. Yes, give yourself a hand. And so now we're at a place where our communities are crying for change. Just like the 2-year-old, just like the 1-year-old that can't change itself. We are the parents, we are the mothers and the fathers of the community. Again, it's a different mindset. And so when we're done with the organizational work, when we're done and we go back to our separate destinations, then the personal contact has to occur. I met a young man in the Galleria, and he seemed just down, he was depressed. And I went over him. I had finished eating, and I was like, you know, I want to go back home. But I felt this nudge to go over there and talk to him. And when I went over there, I said, you know what? I'm just going around and just encouraging people. I just want to know how you're feeling. And long story short, this young gentleman, 19 years old, was about to commit suicide. He had left his parents' home, and he was in a deep, deep, deep place of depression. Now, the servant in me wants to just take him, wrap my arms around him, and give him the world. But I can only do what I can with the little that I had. And so we went, and he was also homeless as well. He was a 19-year-old, and he was homeless. And with the little that I had, I gave him some money, bought him some clothes, drove him to where he needed to be, and we still stayed in contact, and he's back at home with his parents, doing well. And the reason why I bring that up is because sometimes we get we use the word burden with the work that we're doing, but it's not a burden. It's an opportunity to create change. It's an opportunity to see the great potential that we have or that they have for us, right? And so now, just like we started organizations, there are people out there right now that have an organization that is birthed inside of them, that's just waiting to come out. And so instead of going out in the community and say, oh man, this is a mess, we'll say, wow, that guy has the potential to start a community. Your story can start a community. Your story can start an organization. Your story can start a business. And so as we continue to move on, and I'm going to conclude with this, and I have my guitar up here, so I might sing a little song. I want to conclude with this portion of this talk with this, that your time is now. I want you to point to yourself and say, my time is now. Now, in church where I grew up, they say, turn to your neighbor. They'll say, turn to your neighbor and say this. So turn to somebody next to you and say, your time is now. Turn to somebody else and say, your time is now. Now that is an affirmation. Your time is now. And so now is the time, in the midst of everything that's going on in the world. We don't know. Everything can change tomorrow. But are we prepared? Are we prepared for what's going to happen? And so be the change that you want to see in your community. Be the one that's not going to complain, but that's going to change. I had so many complaints about the police force and the things that was happening, and I said, you know what? Let me stop complaining and be part of the change. So I was asked to be a part of the Police Reform Committee. And it was at that time where I saw, you know, the police are just human beings the way that we are. And I had to stop complaining and be the solution to the problem. And I want to say that you are the solution to the problem. Now, the reason why there's so many problems is because you haven't stepped out in your calling. You haven't stepped out in your God-given purpose yet. And yes, we might say to ourselves, man, it's so hard. Man, I have all these things that's hindering me. Get with a team of people, just like you're doing now. Start networking. Start getting with people. Tell your story. Tell people your vision. Tell people your mission. And get with people just like the strings to create harmony in our community. And so I'm going to end with this song. It's the Emmy-nominated song, You Can Change the World. And this song was birthed out of a conversation. If I can get up here. All right, so there's going to be one little part that we're going to say, all right? When I say, oh, 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 you're going to say, you can change the world. You can change the world. Can we say you can change the world? Oh, you gotta give me some energy. See, I'm used to like in concerts and, you know, you gotta give me some energy. Say, you can change the world. All right. Yeah, get excited. I got it. So the true test is to see if this guitar was tuned. And I think it's tuned because it's in the right atmosphere. You guys can hear that? It was nice of you to say hello, hello to everyone. Whether black or white or in between, being kind is what I mean. It's a good time to say hello, hello, it has a cure. And I know in this moment, this conversation can change the world. Oh, 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 you can change the world, you can change the world, you can change the world. Oh, 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 you can change the world, you can change the world, you can change the world. Oh, 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 change the world, can change the world. Oh, 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 you can change the world, can change the world. You have a great story that shines so bright. Just look in the mirror and see you are the light. Oh, 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 you can change the world, can change the world, can change the world. Oh, 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 you can change the world, can change the world, can change the world. Oh, 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 you can change the world, can change the world, can change the world. Oh, 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 you can change the world, can change the world. You can change the world. Thank you. All right. Oh.
Let's give it up for Donald Stevens one more time. So that concludes our morning TED-style presentations. Lunch will be served shortly, and we'll be back with our next keynote speaker, Ariva Martin, at 12:30. So go check out the Vendor Expo network, but please, most importantly, add a Post-it note to that wall out in the vestibule. We all could use a little hope and inspiration. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you in a little bit.